First few episodes of season three's One Punch Man has been making waves in the anime community for all the wrong reasons. Fans are calling out the terrible animation, clunky dialogue, and disjointed scene edits, with some even labeling it as the worst anime adaptation of all time. Honestly, it kind of feels like a deja vu of Blue Lock season 2. So, how did this happen? According to the Teikoku Databank, profits for most anime studios are razor thin. And sure, big names like Studio Ghibli and Bandai Namco do tend to rake in profits by the billions. They are the exception, not the rule. In fact, in their 2025 anime production survey, it shows that around 60% of all anime studios actually saw profits decline from 2024. And that includes both prime contractors, the main studios responsible for production, and subcontractors, specialty animations, or just a piece of an animations project. And that's basically anyone who's responsible for bringing the full animation project to fruition. So, despite anime's booming popularity, many studios are still struggling to make profits. And the catch-22 is that most anime studios agree to a production budget months before a project even begins. And typically, anime production films follow strict regimented schedules, meaning that everything is laid out, including the budget and the time for delivery, well before animation ever begins, leaving little to no room for flexibility or shifts in demands. That means if costs climb or unexpected delays hit, studio still has to deliver on time and in budget, with this squeeze often leading to animation studios to deliver rushed or compromised projects. And secondly, the anime studio relies heavily on freelance contractors. In many of these studios, these freelancers can make up anywhere between 60 to 90% of their entire staff. While this flexible labor model can help studios manage costs, it does create a shortage of long-term, skilled animators who can commit to a full project. The result, projects get delayed, work piles up, and quality can suffer when there aren't enough hands to go around. And finally, the global demand for anime is booming, especially in markets like the US, Europe, and Southeast Asia, with streaming giants like Netflix, Amazon, or Disney are hungry for fresh content to feed their platforms. This demand puts even more pressure on studios to churn out new content as fast as possible. And unfortunately, the rush can often lead to a decline in quality, with many studios prioritizing quantity over quality. Unfortunately, the rush often causes project delays and extended deadlines, which can put a squeeze even further on profit margins. In short, even as anime's popularity skyrockets worldwide, the studios creating these masterpieces are struggling financially, facing growing financial strain, staff shortages, and intense pressure to deliver, and all of which help explain why some adaptations like Season 3 of One Punch Man can often feel rushed, uneven, or downright disappointing. So the question is, who actually oversees these productions and manages the fixed budgets? Well, that would be the production committee. These committees are often made up of various stakeholders like toy companies, publishers, TV networks, and streaming giants, each investing and contributing to a certain portion of the funds. While they help share the financial risk, this often dilutes the creative and operational control from the animation studios themselves. However, in many instances, animation studios lack a real seat at the table, which significantly limits their influence over production schedules and profit shares. This power imbalance frequently creates tight deadlines, grueling work conditions, and relentless pressure to prioritize quantity over quality. So despite anime's growing popularity, at its highest in the last decade according to Teikoku's 2025 survey, much of its international reach was relying on unlicensed websites who were relying very heavily on fan translations for a broader reach. In today's streaming era, giants like Netflix and Crunchyroll dominate the anime market outside of Japan, which makes anime a staple in daily entertainment worldwide. This shift helps break away from classic shonen and shoujo tropes. Think Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, or Sailor Moon, which is opening the door for more diverse stories and genres. However, this dominance also puts animation studios at the mercy of these streaming giants, who are often relying on them for global distribution and marketing. Studios don't have access to this crucial viewer demographic or the marketing data, limiting the ability to tailor their content and their strategy for marketing. But recently, Kotaro Yoshikawa, the senior vice president of TMS, publicly urged streaming giants like Netflix to share its country-by-country viewer reports. This transparency would empower studios to accelerate global growth of Japanese animation and better target foreign markets, a push that aligns very strongly with Japan's New Cool Japan initiative, which advocates for smarter use of data so that they can boost their entertainment and growth and target it more strategically to global markets. And Justin Leach, the CEO and founder of Cubic Pictures, has also worked very closely with Netflix on a lot of its animations, told Toyo Keizai that if a work isn't included in Netflix's regional selection of flagship titles, the production studio should have the option to market it independently. This stance offers a significant backing to the Association of Japanese Animations, which is actively pushing to improve work conditions and boost profitability for animators in this rapidly growing billion-dollar industry. So it's not all doom and gloom. Anime demands is as strong as it ever was. Hit movies like Demon Slayer's Infinity Castle, Chainsaw Man the Reze Art, K-pop Demon Hunters, and live actions like One Piece suggest we might be standing on a new golden era of anime, especially as cinema starts to pivot away from superhero fanfare in favor of new genres and new target audiences. So how is the anime market evolving now? Well, Justin Leach is already pioneering a new form of co-production, hoping to bridge the gap and work side by side with Japanese animators to bring it to a new Western audience. He highlights projects like Star Wars Visions and Leviathan, noting Japan has this amazing history of making animations for decades, and they have a very well-established system. We try to embrace all of that and create something authentic and faithful to Japanese animation. And Cubic Pictures played a crucial role as a cultural liaison and consultant during the development of Star Wars visions. Leach's vision is to pioneer true collaboration, bringing together Japanese and Western animators to develop and create new and unique storytelling, and to really push the boundaries of what animation is capable of. This innovation not only helps Japanese studios retain more control and ownership in their projects, but also promises to empower animators and increase profitability. And looking ahead, this shift could transform how we consume anime, moving away from our traditional 12 episodic format and maybe into more cinematic releases. As the anime faces growing pains amid global demand and shifting business models, the future may indeed belong to those studios and animators who can innovate not just artistically, but in the way that they bring these productions to life. Especially considering Season three's One Punch Man's director, Shinpei Nagai, has had to delete his social media due to all the negative backlash he received after the episodes aired. He did do his best to alleviate fans' concerns, even posting a full-on forum, but in the end, the negativity was just too much and he eventually deleted his socials and walked away. While disappointing releases are never easy, it is important to remember that constructive feedback, not vitriol, is always going to be the best way forward. Investing in and supporting the medium ultimately pays dividends, helping to build a healthier industry and better anime for all of us to love. For fans worldwide, understanding these challenges can help deepen the appreciation for the stories and artistry that makes anime a truly global phenomenon, and hopefully foster a greater level of empathy for animators, studios, and directors who are facing an increased amount of pressure and often criticism online for what they do.